Before I get into this chapter, I need to preface this and just say something real quick. Every subsequent time since then, because I have read this book before, it's always difficult for me to get through this chapter through reasons that will become painfully obvious. I'm getting choked up already just thinking about it. As I've always reiterated, this is not a professionally read thing. I read this because I love this series and I like narrating this type of shit. But if I have to stop or take a breath for a second, please bear with me and understand this chapter, through my best of intentions here, is probably going to be very difficult for me to get through. So bear with that. But thank you guys and gals so much for listening up until this point, and please enjoy. Sacrifice. An explosion of noise crashed in on me from every direction. In an instant, the guns were barking and the wind was howling and the stink of smoke was burrowing into my nostrils. The orange blur was right in front of me, kicking and thrashing through the air, and then there was a thud and a yelp, and Molly was bleeding at my feet. Amy was yelling, "Don't shoot!" at the soldiers, finishing her sentence from before the great pause. Her words choked off in confusion. In a blink, there I was, standing in the road in front of her. To her eyes I had teleported there, and there on the ground in front of me was Molly. I spun and dove and tackled Amy, pinning her to the ground, sending her glasses askew. The guns thundered behind us, and I craned my head around to see that Tennant's army of infected were, as I thought, simply collapsing dead where they stood, like marionettes whose strings had all simultaneously been cut. Their parasite puppeteers had been burned to ash. Torturous minutes stretched out as we lay there, and the gunfire continued over and around us, the amped-up soldiers getting their money's worth. Bullets skipped off pavement and whistled overhead, but slowly, finally, one gun after another got the ceasefire command. The Zulus were down. Amy squirmed out from under me, and goddamn it, she ran right out into the open again and toward Molly. She kneeled down over her, crying, pressing her face to the dogs. I slowly stood, waving my arms at the soldiers, for all that good it had done Amy last time. Nearby, I saw the shredded sleeve of one of the black spacesuits and grabbed it and waved it like a flag. They didn't shoot. I went over to Amy and Molly. The dog wasn't whimpering or howling, thank God, because I don't think either of us could have handled that. She was silent, her eyes closed. Still. She never even felt it. Molly had moved when the rest of the world was still. She'd been able to navigate the paused world just like John and I had, and I doubted I would ever know how. Beyond the fact that there were a lot of things about this animal that I did not understand. When things had stopped, she ran, from wherever she was, and she ran as fast as her paws could take her, knowing where she needed to be and what she needed to do. And what she needed to do was steal my goddamned hero moment. We kneeled there in the cold. Fuck. We knelt there in the cold, and finally somebody called out to us. It was a soldier who I had a feeling was doing it against orders. He had emerged from the hatch at the top of one of the vehicles and was yelling something at us. I couldn't hear what he was saying, so I just showed him my empty hands and said, "We're not armed." If somehow the crying girl at my feet and I still looked like zombies, then John convinced him otherwise, since he was performing the distinctly human and distinctly non-zombie activity of filming everything with a cell phone. The soldiers climbed out of the vehicle and jumped down, then crossed the barricades. See, that's how you get eaten in a zombie movie, kid. I heard cars approach from the highway behind us. Refugees undisclosed who had presumably been huddled down in the dead zone behind us, hearing World War III erupting up ahead. But now they came, in their pickup trucks and dirt bikes and ATVs, driving with an adherence to posted traffic laws that zombies so rarely display. No one on the other side of the barricades panicked and opened fire. The spell had been broken. Amy was whispering to Molly, stroking her fur. I was standing over Amy, my hand on her shoulder, looking down at them. Boots appeared on the road next to me, my eyes tracked up past gray camo pants and black knee pads. A weird-looking assault rifle was pointed at the ground, a gloved hand on the grip, the finger resting outside the trigger guard. The soldier said, "Sir, please identify yourself." "My name is David Wong. I'm not a zombie or infected with any kind of disease that creates zombie-like symptoms or whatever other bullshit you were told by your commanding officers." The soldier gestured toward the approaching vehicles and said, "You've escaped the city? Are there other uninfected back there?" I thought for a moment, studying Amy's face. I swallowed and said, "As far as I know, everybody in town is uninfected. The effects of this outbreak have been grossly exaggerated." "Stop filming, sir! Sir!" John obeyed, stuffing the phone in his pocket. He said, "You can confiscate the phone if you want. A copy of the video is currently hosted on my website, and you can try to get that taken down, I guess, but it's on a server based in the Ukraine, so good luck with that." Other soldiers were approaching cautiously from behind the first guy, and in a zombie movie, this is when Molly would spring back to life and bite one of them, but then everything would go to hell. But this was not a zombie movie. Molly stayed where she was, her blood turning cold on the pavement. The cold rain started again. John took off his jacket and laid it over Molly so she wouldn't lay there and get soaked. It was for Amy's benefit, I knew. One of the soldiers behind the first guy, a medic apparently, said, "Does anyone need medical attention?" John said, "No, we're fine." Then a furious voice emerged from the ditch to my left, saying, hello? I got 3 bullet wounds down here and I'm laying in fucking freezing water. Somebody?" We didn't realize at the time that we would have to basically ban ourselves from watching television in the aftermath. The video clip of the small, wet, redhead girl weeping over her shot dog would be downloaded 18 million times from YouTube alone in the next month. It would air on CNN, Fox News, the BBC, Al Jazeera, all 3 broadcast networks, and everywhere else. Amy couldn't stand to watch it, and for a long time, it was everywhere. If it had been me laying there, nobody would have given a shit. A big chubby guy in a green prison jumpsuit and a weird reputation. The factions who were still calling for blood afterward, who talked of undetectable infection and for internment, if not extermination of the town, would maybe have still won out. Same if it had been John, or Falconer, or Owen. They could have dug up dirt on us, claimed the corpse was infected, claimed we had killed a dozen orphans just prior to taking the bullet. We would have just been one more body in the street. But no one could argue against a dog. The loyal dog, sacrificing itself to save its owner, and laying there bleeding in the rain. Then add in the tiny girl kneeling over her, the dog's owner that the bullet had been meant for, who couldn't have appeared more harmless if she'd been made of kittens. The image doused the world's bloodlust like a bucket of ice water. A perfect, undeniable symbol for the price the innocent pay for unchecked paranoia.